I noticed that the Chucky animatronic was facing me, and its head angled down perfectly to look as though it was looking at me. Bizarre.
What's good, my fellow viewers and my fellow demons? This is JeanOtaku91 here to do yet another reaction video. Now today, I'm going to be reacting to a video called 3 Scary True Chuck E. Cheese Stories by Mr. Nightmare. Now before we get started with the reaction, I just wanted to say to you all you viewers that as a kid, I always loved Chuck E. Cheese back in the early 90s. I mean, I was very obsessive with Chuck E. Cheese back then. And I was quite a wild kid back then, and every time my parents and my uncles and aunts always take me to Chuck E. Cheese along with my cousins, we always had a lot of fun with the playpens, the arcades, and had a good time eating pizza and all that, have birthday parties there, and to me, I know that the whole gist of it back then when they had animatronics back then, and now they just no longer do that anymore. And also the thing is that I want to bring up that now that Chuck E. Cheese is slowly going out of business and somehow is going into bankruptcy because of the pandemic. But to be true with you all, Chuck E. Cheese nowadays doesn't seem like I used to remember back then. And they no longer have these animatronics anymore and all that. And it's kind of weird that Chuck E. Cheese had slowly changed and lost its identity for me, so I no longer care about Chuck E. Cheese anyways. But back then, as a kid, back in the early 90s, I always loved Chuck E. Cheese. It was my childhood back then, and I bet if let me know in the comments down below if any of you had any fond memories of going to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid. Let me know down in the comments, and I could just go over what you had to say about your childhood, or like, what is your favorite moments of going to Chuck E. Cheese when you were a kid and all that. Just let me know in the comments. But without further ado, let's get on with the video, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a really scary story about Chuck E. Cheese, and I can clearly understand how this is gonna go. So without further ado, let's get on with the video in 3, 2, 1, start.
Remember Chuck E. Cheese? That old arcade with the singing animatronics? Of course you do. I just found out they went bankrupt recently. It made me think back to my horrible experience there as a very little kid. I was no older than 8 or 9. It was like my third and last time ever at a Chuck E. Cheese. This specific location closed down years ago, but it used to be basically down the street from our old house. My mom took my little brother and I, and she let us roam free and do our own thing and play the games, while she sat at one of the tables reading like most of the other parents. I was playing this clown game where you had to shoot the clown's teeth out with this little cannonball shooter. I was playing the games that would get me the most tickets for the prizes. I finished the game again, and the tickets shot out from the ticket slot.
I always loved,
to
be honest with you, I always loved winning tickets so I could buy prizes.
With a giant Chuck E. Cheese mascot in my face. He held out his hand for a high five, and naturally I gave him his high five with a smile. He then pointed at the tickets and gave me a thumbs up. I think I just continued laughing and smiling and said, yeah. Then he pointed at the tickets once more and motioned for me to follow him. So I ripped the tickets from the slot and followed the giant mascot. As we walked across the main floor, a couple other kids around like 6 came up to him saying, "Hey Chucky," and he gave them both high fives. I kept following him, wondering if he'd tell the other kids to follow, but he didn't. He would turn back every few seconds to make sure I was still following him. Finally, we made it across the main floor by the stage towards this back area, where he waved me to follow him through this employees-only door. From what I
had to stop for a second. I had to stop for a moment. Why do I get the feeling that the mascot is somehow a pedophile? That's a creepy thought, if you think about it. What if someone in a Chuck E. Cheese mascot suit is actually a pedophile and luring kids in? That's total red flags right there.
I remember about how I was feeling. Let's just say a combination of weird and excited. We entered this narrow hallway, and I felt kind of special for being allowed access back here. Keep in mind, I have the mind and maturity of a very young child.
No.
The mascot led me to this back room, where he motioned for me to enter first, so I did. It was this small changing room type of room. It had a few lockers on one wall, and one long bench extending half the length of the room. That was it. He entered the room and shut the door behind us, and I noticed he locked it. That's when I became confused and afraid.
Oh no.
I
Oh
he
shit.
me to get a bunch of free tickets. What could he possibly do in this empty room with me? He approached me, put his furry mascot hand on my shoulder, and then started rubbing from my shoulder to my arm. Then he seemed as though he tried to reach lower with both of his hands, and I pushed him off and yelled, "Stop." That's when the person in the suit lifted the mask off his head, revealing some sweaty, middle-aged man underneath. He started to remove the rest of the costume from himself as he told me to be quiet. I sat there watching, shaking, and plotting my way for the door. When I thought he was distracted enough by the suit, I tried to run past him for the door, but he grabbed me and told me to stop. He offered me all the free tickets I wanted if I just behaved.
No!
I started to yell and pound on the door.
No!
I tried to cover my mouth, but I think he gave up when he realized it wasn't worth the risk for him. I unlocked the door and ran back down the hall in tears. I ran back to my mom, yelling at her about what just happened. She was distraught and went right to the front desk. The girl at the front desk seemed to be in a panic as well, and I think she called for her supervisor.
Report it.
Pretty soon, all the music was stopped, and the place was put into a lockdown of sorts, where all the kids were to go to their parents. A bunch of workers ran to the back section, and eventually police showed up outside. I had to give my whole story to a crowd of like 6 people, and I was extremely nervous. The man in the Chucky suit was some random creep who snuck into the back section of the building to dress in one of the suits and apparently lure children to the back.
I knew it.
Realizing and looking back,
what's even more scary that
is disturbing and disgusting.
I mean, seriously,
I was the victim of a predator. I never found out if that monster was caught.
Seriously, if there's any time when there's some random person who never is an employee at Chuck E. Cheese, you know that's major red flags, and that's very suspicious. Anyways, let's just carry on with the video. Story 2. Oh boy, this is gonna be much worse than the first one.
I used to work for Chuck E. Cheese very briefly when I was 21 years old. I was one of the janitors/maintenance workers. I know, not very awe-inspiring. I was broke as hell and needed money. All my job really entailed was cleaning tables and keeping the play areas generally clean. Sounds easy, but there was never really a time to just sit and take a breath. There was always something to clean or take care of. I would also be in charge of turning on and off the animatronics, opening the stage curtains, fixing busted arcade machines, and things of that nature. My shifts would always be later, from like 4 to 10 p.m. My location closed at 8 on weekdays and 9 on weekends. I would stay an hour, sometimes 2 hours after, to get the place in top shape ready for the next day. So this one night, I was working past close like I usually did. Everyone had already left the building, including the other workers, so I was the last one in the building. I was dragging my cleaning cart around the arcade area. I had already turned off all the game machines. I was by that space-themed arcade machine where you had to press the button at the right moment to stop the light on the jackpot bulb. As I was passing by this machine, the space-themed music suddenly emits from the machine at a very loud volume, and all the lights start flashing again. I felt like my heart was in my throat. That's how much it startled me. I fiddled with my keys to access the control port of the machine to turn it off again. I'd never seen anything like that happen before. It It suddenly just freaked me out. Only because I was all alone in that big building pretty late at night. The weirdness didn't stop there, though. By this point in the night, I had already shut down the animatronics on the stage, so when I heard Chucky's pre-recorded laugh break the silence of the room, my heart started pounding
Oh,
again.
shit!
The laugh was short and cut off. It almost sounded glitchy. I ditched my cleaning cart to go backstage and check on the animatronics.
Is the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant haunted?
They were in their
Five Nights at Freddy's freak
They would move their
shit
limbs
right
and heads
there.
around every so often.
This
I would
is
have to go to
some
the control room to turn them
Five
off.
Nights at Freddy's
The
shit.
second strange thing to happen that night. I started getting paranoid that someone else was in the building with me, but that thought was interrupted when I noticed that the Chucky animatronic was facing me, and its head angled down perfectly to look as though it was looking at me.
Ah!
Bizarre that I was finding it that disturbing.
That is disturbing.
But for my own peace of mind, with my eyes on the Chucky animatronic, I walked past it, closer to the control room. I waited there for a few seconds, and then the animatronic spun 90 degrees to face me once more, perfectly. I swear it was once again looking right at me, and then the laughter emitted once again from the animatronic. But in a creepy, glitchy, cut-off manner, this time much louder, obviously because I was right next to it.
Yeah, this is definitely Five Nights at Freddy's.
Everything off on the stage once more. I left the control room, and the Chucky animatronic was still facing the direction it was moments before. I left the stage through the curtain and just felt uneasy. I was starting to think maybe it was all just getting to my head. But that's when I heard the horrible laugh again come from the stage behind the curtains. That was the last straw. I took my card, clocked out, and left. I texted my boss the next day that I had to leave early because I was feeling extremely sick. He said it wasn't a problem, but he never mentioned anything about the animatronics being left on. And when I asked him if the animatronics had some kind of motion detecting feature to look at people, he said no, they didn't. I'm not the most superstitious guy, but I firmly believe I wasn't the only presence in that building that night. And I don't mean there was another person in there.
Yep, definitely it was haunted. I'm pretty sure that's like Five Nights at Freddy's shit. Alright.
This is a story from my childhood that I don't like to look back on too much. I was 13. My mom brought my two little sisters and I to Chuck E. Cheese one evening. My sisters are 4 and 6 years younger than me, so it was more for them. My mom just wanted me to come along. My mom was playing games with my sisters, so I went to do my own thing. It was my only time ever at Chuck E. Cheese, so I was trying to play every game at least once. Eventually, a worker in a red polo shirt came up to me. He was in his lower to mid-20s, I'd say. He didn't seem that old. He asked me if I wanted some more tokens. I said, yeah, sure. He told me to follow him. He led me through this sketchy back door, which led to a back exit. I asked him where he was leading me. He said to his truck. He told me not to tell anyone, but that he had access to all the tokens he wanted.
No.
He just kept piles of them in his car.
Pedophile alert!
I realized he was
Pedophile alert!
I told him my mom would be mad. He tried to push that I follow him a little more, but gave up. Before I walked back inside, he asked for my AIM username, and I gave it to him. I was excited for new friends on AIM. For those of you who don't know, AIM was an instant messenger that was all the rage before smartphones and texting really became a thing. I don't remember his username. All I know, it was something with his name in it, which was Ben. I would sign on to AIM every single night, including that night after Chuck E. Cheese. I signed in, and I had a few friends online. Next thing I knew, I got a message from Ben, so I added him to my buddy list. He said, hey, it's Ben from earlier. I replied, what's up, and we started chatting. He chatted with me as if we were good friends already. I asked him how he was able to get all the tokens he wanted, and he said it's easy when you work there. He told me he was going to come to my house that night with a bunch of tokens. I told him, no, it's okay.
No.
And he told me, no, it's fine. You live really close to me anyway. I replied, how do you know where I live? And he said he followed my mom's van on our way home. I blocked his account immediately. I was beyond scared.
Yeah, definitely.
I told my friends about it on AIM. Some of them said I should tell my parents or call the police. But I waited. Maybe he was bluffing. but no, he wasn't. I heard a truck pull up outside through my open window.
No.
I looked out the window and saw the black truck that Ben guy was leading me towards earlier. I saw him get out from the truck, and I know he spotted me, because he started walking over to my window. I pulled the window in and locked it, and then shut the blind.
No.
By that point, he was already halfway to my window, and he was waving his arms at me. I ran to my mom to tell her. She didn't find it funny, thinking I was kidding at first. But I convinced her after she looked out the window and saw the black truck begin to speed down the road. My mom wanted me to show her the AIM conversation, but I couldn't, as I had deleted him off my buddy list and blocked him. My parents called the police, of course, but that was just for peace of mind. They couldn't do anything besides make a report. The next day, my mom called the Chuck E. Cheese and asked about a Ben. They said they had no Bens who worked there. There were also no employees matching that guy's description. The Chuck E. Cheese eventually
just
had
like the first
CCTV
story,
footage
some
from the day
random
police department for an investigation,
stranger
which turned up no results.
is also a pedophile.
My family never went to a Chuck E. Cheese ever again.
I guess it's best that you shouldn't go back to Chuck E. Cheese ever again. So that was the video for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't enjoy the video, give it a thumbs down. And if you have any suggestions of what I should react to next, leave a comment down below. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified for more future videos. And until then, folks, stay tuned!
So why you want to